This game is a part of a cluster of Bionic Commando games which came out in the late 2000s, an attempt to relaunch the franchise. We had the original game on the NES in the late 80s, which I played when I was a kid. Then we had the remake in 2008. This game, Bionic Commando, in 2009, and Rearmed in 2011. Looking over all these titles, you would not be blamed for thinking that this game has an identity crisis, as I am not too sure why the character in this game looks different from the others, so it's confusing. I believe this design is what they should have stayed with. It just seems nice and base. And this franchise at the time of this video is dead and done, with a bunch of failures including this one sealing the deal. The idea of the game is to swing around. How they explain the swinging around part of the game is, you are this badass military guy who they decided to put this mechanical arm on, which then has the ability to fire a tethered projectile at things which it can also latch onto, then truck the attached to where the projectile latched. Why is this game good? Well, the internet doesn't seem to think much of this game, and I can't blame them. It is a strange one, not quite enough vision. It's important to not stray too far away from the formula, and that is what they did do. But this YouTube series is purely about taking good aspects from games and ignoring the bad ones, ignoring the failures. In my opinion, this game is good. I enjoyed it. It does what it needs to do, and it's nice to play a game that is not overly bloated. So the first pillar, the gameplay. So the selling point of the game is you can swing around and grapple at almost everything. Think of Spider-Man, except more limited. And I don't mean limited in a bad way. The joy is in the limit you can grapple to and swing to, which helps keep you thinking ahead. The moveset is simple and easy to pick up, and within a short time you start to feel like a pro. You also do combat, melee, shooting and grappling. I feel like I missed many opportunities to be good while playing this. My execution was off a lot of the time. It's not the game's fault, it's mine. I would stuff up swings constantly, and if I were to get good, it would have been a very rewarding ride. The shooting is simple. It almost feels like the collision overlaps on the enemies are very large when you are far away, because they are very easy to hip shoot at. Hip shooting is when the camera has a lot of area to scroll through, which normally makes it harder to hit the target. This game does not have this issue. You have to be able to quickly take out enemies when you are swinging around and landing. The devs succeeded here. Of course, the player does need to develop their skills too, which will happen over time. The first bunch of areas start off easy, just to get the player used to it. You couldn't be blamed for thinking the game starts off quite slowly. It does ramp up. The bionic arm and the combat start to blend more as you play, and the game really starts to get intense. Some of the guns are really nice. I especially like this one, where you get to land somewhere, quickly scope and target an enemy, and then swing off as it gets taken down. Spencer, the main protagonist, handles more like a go-kart. Well, that's the feeling I got when I first started it. It feels as though you are driving him around, like you have your foot on the gas and you are just steering him about as you run. That's the feeling I got from it, and it's the camera that gives this feel.
I've still got it.
Pillar 2. Sparse and empty areas. Is that a good thing? Now remember, I am reviewing this based on game design decisions, implementation and operation, not what the gaming audience may think they want. The audience needs the game to run well first of all. This game came out on the PS3, That's what I'm playing it on anyway. It's worth a mention because the PS3 would have imposed a lot of limits in how the game was made. It is imperative that this game functions well. The great controls and camera would have been completely nullified if the game were to run poorly. The ability to go from A to B so quickly would mean the devs would have to sparsen out the areas so the game could operate effectively. The gameplay needs to be a priority in a game like this. Decisions are made on the fly. A very good player could push this too. In comparison, comparing a game like The Last of Us, which also came out on the PS3, which has very detailed areas, with a game like this, low definition areas, would be unfair. If a 3D Bionic Commando were to be rebooted today, then they could go further with the detail and objects within the areas. Now that would be cool. Pillar 3. The music. Now this game starts off slow. It decides to let the player get familiar with what it has to offer before ramping up the difficulty or intensity. But the intensity does rise, and when it does, something you really start to notice is the score. It really starts to thump. It raises the player's adrenaline. Well, it raised mine anyway. I had a lot of fun enjoying the mechanics of the game, and the layer of music completes it. It's a different experience, and it's fun. The music is dynamic. It rises and falls with what is happening. It's contextual, and it does a great job to steer the player's mood. You can tell that the developers really wanted the music to lift the player, and it really does feel like a call to arms, as whenever it is turned up, I instantly put more effort into what I was doing. Conclusion. 3 pillars of what makes this game good. I could have given it 4 pillars because the combat and weapons are pretty good. They work well. The type of gamer that would like this title would be someone that is well coordinated and is more casual in what they expect from their game in terms of graphics and story. It's a good old cheesy title with a rebellious hard mother of a protagonist. The story or string of events don't over-invite themselves, meaning you can just push on to the end. There is little thinking here, and you must move in a fairly straight line. Bionic Commando might be an easier sell today because of what hardware can do. Those sparse areas could be improved greatly with all the systems surrounding it easy to implement also. However, the identity crisis cannot be ignored. It really confuses me, and that's the last thing you want to do to people. You don't want to confuse people. You want a nice base character, and like I said, this guy from Rearmed, he's my pick.